Be'ezrat Hashem, na'aseh v'natzliach.
Amen.
I'd like to welcome you to Ironside Lunch and Learn, to our weekly Parashat Vayakhel class that we do over here. I want to give a special thanks to our gracious host that lends us the space as well as caters this Lunch and Learn and has this amazing feast every single week for us. Ofer Mizrahi, that Hashem should bless you, that you should be successful in all your endeavors, that you have shalom bayit, you have bracha v'atzlacha, that you have nachat from your children, and that Be'ezrat Hashem we hear b'sorot tovot, that anything that is connected to you. Also want to give another beautiful assist on this Ironside Lunch and Learn to our good friend Judah Mendel. Baruch Hashem, you've been able to put this together, and we're here. And it's something that's steady and it's strong and it's to your merit. Hashem varech otcha, yisamech otcha, and Be'ezrat Hashem we dance under the canopy of your wedding real soon. Bimhera, bimhera, bimhera. Okay, this week's parasha is a double header, Vayakhel Pikudei. And if you're following the Parashat Shabbat of the past few weeks, it's constantly talking about the Mishkan, the tabernacle, all the articles that are within it, the clothing of the Kohen, the job description of the Kohen, and we've been going back and forth with the Mishkan for several weeks, and here we are, Vayakhel Pikudei, again, for the fifth time, there's a mention, almost like a repeat of all the Mishkan, the articles, and everything that have been mentioned in previous parashiyot. So why all this repetition? Well, Rabbeinu Bachya says that it stems from two places, Mishum Chiba and Mishum Ma'ala. He says, just to show you, first of all, how endearing is the Mishkan to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he mentions it so many times. And not only is it how endearing it is, Baruch haba, but it's such on a lofty, high level. It's such on a high level that we have to learn it over and over again just to get into the deeper secrets of the Mishkan, its meaning on a basic level, on a spiritual level, and on a deeper level, even on a all-encompassing view of the world level. That we can see the entire world inside this Mishkan. Be'ezrat Hashem will be able to repeat that at the end of the lesson. Now, Rabbeinu Bachya says also that the Mishkan is that Kehilat Moshe techaper al Kehilat Aharon. That Moshe's community will do an atonement for Aharon's community, which means what? When Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the Har Sinai to bring down the Torah, who was in charge? Aharon. When Aharon was in charge, unfortunately, we had a couple of mishaps. Chet HaEgel, which is the biggest one. So until Moshe came back, he came to repair what happened during that time. So you have to understand that the first time when Moshe Rabbeinu went to the heavens, he came with the Luchot HaBrit that came from the heavens, that were written by the finger of God, and the measure of judgment, the strict deen that came down to the world with that is that as soon as they worshipped something other than God, what was God's reaction? I'm going to destroy this nation and I'm going to start anew with you. In other words, the Torah at that moment did not have any sort of teshuvah process in it to forgive for Avodah Zarah. What did Moshe Rabbeinu do? He broke it, went up to the heavens for another 40 years, went up to Har Sinai for another 40 days, asked for forgiveness, came back down again, and went back again, and this time he came down 40 days later with the Luchot HaBrit, that he himself, when he got the instruction from God, take this special sapirion, not diamond, but like a rock that's on a higher level than a diamond, and from there write the Luchot HaBrit, and that's when he came down for the third time. So actually Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the Har Sinai 3 times at 40-day increments. And when he came down again, we had the instructions over there about what happens to a Jew when he worships Avodah Zarah. Because in the middle of the first Luchot HaBrit and the second Luchot HaBrit, there was a negotiation. What was the negotiation? God says, I'm done with these people. I'm starting fresh with you. Moshe Rabbeinu says, if you are going to start fresh with me, erase me from your book. I'm not buying into this option. And he prayed for the Jewish nation, and he was able to make Hashem forgive the Jews. And after he forgave the Jews, Moshe, the whole idea is that God was on top of the mountain and he was visible. They saw him. While he was negotiating the forgiveness of the Jews, God said, okay, not a problem, I forgive them. But from now on, I'm going to send a messenger. I'm going to send a malach. Rashi says the malach is Matotron. That's the name of that angel that is going to right now walk in front of you. Moshe Rabbeinu did not settle for that. No! You yourself, God, you're going to be with us. He says, I can't be with you. You guys sinned. You guys sinned against me. Moshe Rabbeinu did not move. He did not waver. He kept negotiating until Hashem said, you know what? I will live amongst you. And where did he live amongst the Jews? During the time of Dor HaMidbar, in the Mishkan. So you have to understand that God was visible on Har Sinai. Later on, he is, and all the Jews saw him. They lost that. The Jews lost that option of living with God. Moshe negotiated, and when he came back for the third time, he came back with the option of the Mishkan. So when it says Vayakhel Moshe, the first pasuk, Vayakhel Moshe et kol adat bnei Yisrael, Rashi tells us that what day was that? What was the date that Moshe Rabbeinu came down for the third time from Har Sinai? Does anybody know? You should know.
Third time? Second time?
Third time.
Yom Kippur is the second.
Yom Kippur. No, Yom Kippur is the third time.
And the second time is when? Shabbat, no?
No, Elul. It's like, look, Vav Sivan is the first time until Yud Zayin Betamuz. Then it went from Yud Zayin Betamuz or Yud Chet Betamuz all the way to Rosh Chodesh Elul. Rosh Chodesh Elul all the way to Yud Betishrei. Those are the three times. And on the third time, on Yud Betishrei, what is it? Yom Kippur. And because God forgave us on Yom Kippur, what do we do every year? We know that there's a special energy of forgiveness on Yom Kippur. We check ourselves into Yeshua and say, Hashem, forgive us. Just like He forgave us for the Chet of the Egel, just like He forgave us when Moshe Rabbeinu beseeched for the Jewish nation. That's what we do on Yom Kippur. That's why we check ourselves into Shul on Yom Kippur, because there's an energy, there's a spiritual energy of forgiveness during that day. Hashem forgave us. Now, when Moshe Rabbeinu came down on Yom Kippur, he came down with an option. What was the option? That God is now, even though that he did not want to live with not to be with the Jews anymore, and he wanted to even have an angel come on his behalf, he came back down and says, now I'm going to live amongst the Jews, but where? Hidden and inside the Mishkan. So the purpose of the Mishkan is for Hashem to have a dwelling place among the Jewish people. As the pasuk goes in the previous parasha, "V'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham." They will make for me a sanctuary, and I will live amongst them. So that moment in time when the Jewish people saw the Shekhinah of God on top of Har Sinai, that same moment extended. In other words, it wasn't just like a one-time thing. That moment, that feeling that you see God and you feel God is amongst you, continued the entire time that the Mishkan was around. The only difference, on Har Sinai it was visible, in the Mishkan it was hidden. But the presence of Hashem was with the Jews at all times. And the entire purpose, or the additional purpose of the Mishkan, is so the Jews have so the Mishkan has a positive influence on the Jews, as well as a blessing, to instill a blessing, a bracha, upon the Jewish people. And this blessing cannot be upon the Jews if they're not united. If the Jews are not united, they are not a vessel to receive the beracha. They're not a kli to receive the beracha. When the Jews are united, then the Shekhinah can be around, and the Shekhinah can bless them, and we can be blessed. When the Jews are divided, there's no Shekhinah, and there's no blessing. That's why you see that the Jews right now are going through a lot of hardships. And the reason for that is that we have division. We have division in the Jewish nation. Should we be united, the Shekhinah gets closer to us, starts to bless us, we become blessed, and everything works itself out. The concept of shalom and achdut, peace and unity, equals bracha. When we're able to put together peace and be a united nation, it will translate into a blessed nation. As the pasuk goes, Lo matzah kadosh baruch hu kli machzik beracha liYisrael el shalom. Hashem was looking all around what would be the proper vessel in order to instill the blessings of God upon the Jewish nation. He says the proper vessel for that is shalom, is peace. And it continues to say, Hashem oz la'amo item, Hashem yevarech et amo b'shalom. The key words over there are yevarech and shalom. Hashem yevarech, God will bless, et amo, his nation, how? B'shalom, with peace. So you can see that the blessing of the Jewish nation is hinged upon peace and internal peace.
We say it every morning also.
Yes, we don't. The word shalom, the concept of peace, we've done many classes on it. It's the top of God's list. If God had some sort of list of things that have priorities, and if you notice it in our prayers, and Chazal say it all the time, and we're even allowed to say things b'shinui, which is unheard of. What? For peace. Shalom. Oseh shalom b'burma. Aseh shalom. So many different places that you can see in the Amidah itself. It comes up maybe 6 or 7 times in the Kaddish, in Birkat Hamazon, in Birkat Kohanim, Shabbat Shalom. Everywhere you go, the number one thing that God is concerned with is peace. Shalom. If you concern yourself with peace, that means you're doing godly work. And that brings forward bracha. In a person's blessing in his life typically stems from one place, from shalom. If a person wants a blessing in his business, in his marriage, with his children, in all his endeavors, if he's promoting peace in his environment, he will benefit from a blessing, bracha. It's a very, very important thing to be connected to the concept of peace. It's a life's work. It's not easy to keep the peace. People are very challenged by keeping the peace with their children, when they're younger, when they're older, keeping peace with their parents, married couples, business partners, Jews and Gentiles. Peace is not easy. Look at the state of the world today. They can't figure it out. We say peace is a general word, but in reality it's something that is very, very hard to achieve. And that's why it's so hard. That's why it's on the top of God's list. Because that is the kli, that is the vessel of the beracha. Now, the Mishkan gave a dwelling for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. However, I'm going to read out of Sefer Imre Noam of Rabbi Yoram Michael Aberjo Zecher Tzadik Livracha, that says, we're looking at the Mishkan, and what's the Mishkan? The walls, the menorah, the table, where they bring the incense, where they do the korbanot, the mizbeach. But he says that each one of these items or accessories of the Mishkan had a much, much, much deeper significance. Yes, they served their purpose in the Mishkan. This was for the incense, this was for the korbanot, this was for lighting of the candles, this was for the lechem hapanim, for the bread. But he says on a much, much larger scale, It's connected to our lives and to the universe. Listen to this. The rabbi brings the commentary of Rabbi Yonatan ben Uziel. Rabbi Yonatan ben Uziel was a huge rabbi. Most of his commentary is in Aramaic, and it's very short. And when he gave a commentary on this particular parasha, in Parashat Pikudei, he speaks about the different articles in the Mishkan, and this is what he says. He says, when it comes to Lechem Apanim, that was on the north side of the Mishkan, it symbolized, or it brought down, or was a conduit for abundance, parnasa, and wealth. He says everything that was connected to sustenance, livelihood, parnasa, wealth, was connected to the shulchan. So imagine you're walking into the Mishkan, you see a table, but that table's purpose in the world is that it was a conduit of parnasa to the world. Could you imagine? On face value, you think you're looking at a table, but you have to take our human eyes, move to the side, and say, no, that this is what brings parnasa. This is the channel over here that brings parnasa into the world, and it's this table. The next one is the menorah. The menorah was set on the southern side of the Mishkan, and it says everything that was connected to space and to the zodiac and to the stars and to the heavens was all connected to it. And it says it's all connected through the 7 conduits of the menorah, which have a simanim, that each one is connected to Shabtai, Tzedek, Ma'adim, Chama, Noga, Kochav, Levana, which is the big 7 planets, which is the sun, Mars, the moon, and a few other ones that they say here in Hebrew. I don't know how to say it in English, I'm sorry. And besides that it's connected to the heavens and to the planets, all the Chokhmah Elyona, all the knowledge of the world in all 4 sides of the Torah, which is the Pardes, which is the Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod, all the 4 conduits that we can learn the Torah through, were connected to the menorah. And remember, a few weeks ago we spoke about it. The Shulchan was the Parnasah, and the menorah was knowledge. So imagine, you're looking at a menorah, but everything that is connected to knowledge, that is in this world, comes through that little instrument. In between the table and the menorah, they had the altar of the Ketoret. And the Ketoret is the incense offering. And it says that the incense offering gave a very pleasant smell. And that is corresponding to all the Talmidei Chachamim, Haoskim B'Torah Yomam V'Layla. That pleasant smell that's in this world corresponds to the Torah Jew that sits in the yeshiva and shtags and learns every day and every night Torah. That's what gives the world the pleasant smell of heaven. In other words, we can't smell it, right? We go walk into yeshiva and we see a bunch of people learning. You smell anything? No. But for Kadosh Baruch Hu, for the world, there's a scent of Gan Eden when people are learning Torah. Ironically, I saw this morning a very interesting video. There's a scientist, a religious scientist, that was studying auras. He was able to develop certain machines and certain programs where he was able to see people's auras. And they saw people when they were just regular, and according to the colors. The white was the highest color. Purple is a very high level. And then it went down to blues and to reds. And you saw that a regular person doing nothing, a non-religious Jew, not even one who doesn't even believe, he had his regular aura of red, I think it was, and as soon as he started to read a perek of Tehillim, he turned purple, his aura, which is on a very high level. We went to a religious Jew. His aura already was purple. And he took off the tefillin, and you see, legit, an image, I might even share it on the group, a crown, a purple crown, like a whole little, like a cloud, a purple cloud over the person's head right after they put on tefillin. They went to a big rabbi, a very I think it was Rav Meir Eliyahu, a big rabbi in Israel. And as soon as they put him in front of the machine, without talking anything, just continue.
Oh, there we go.
He continued to talk about the Mizbeach HaNechoshet, the copper Mizbeach, the copper altar. He says, and that is hinted to the rich people, that the korbanot mechaprim al ba'alehem. He says, why? This particular altar is an altar where you bring the animal and it makes an atonement for the person that sinned. He says, similarly are the rich people in this world. What do? They give tzedakah, and it helps out the poor. And he says that sometimes the rich people are so busy with making money, they don't have time to learn, for example. It's not that they're patur from mitzvot chas v'shalom, but the fact that they give tzedakah, that tzedakah is like mechaper, like the copper altar. Even rich people have a purpose in this world, just like a poor person has a purpose in this world. Sometimes they say, who's getting the bigger mitzvah? Is it the poor person or is it the rich person? Who's making a bigger mitzvah?
No, it's got to be equal.
Well, listen, it's very easy to write a check.
Is it? Not for everyone.
It's easier than to sit down and to study Torah, or it's easier to go to a minyan every morning.
Depends on your character.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's easier, not easy.
So we see that, in short, without going too much into all of them, that each part of the Mizbeach has special powers past beyond its purpose of the physical Mishkan over there. The Mishkan, which is very interesting, it says, he says now, right now, after he gathered all the information, he gathered all the Jewish people, and he's now transmitting to them all the instructions that was given to him by God. And the next pasuk goes into Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh Melacha Uvayom HaShvi'i Elechem Kodesh Shabbat Shabbaton LaAdonai Kol Asor Bo Melacha Yumad. Shabbat. What is Shabbat doing over here? What does Shabbat have to do with the Mishkan? Why is the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he opens up the conversation about the Mishkan, I'm about to tell you everything that God told me. Wait, first let's talk about Shabbat, then I'll tell you, now you need to get gold, now you need to get diamonds, now you need to get special leathers, now you need to get special wood. How did Shabbat get squeaked in here before all of that? So Rashi says, הקדים להם אזהרת שבת לציווי מלאכת המשכן, לאומר שאינו דוחה את השבת. Let you know that nothing is permitted when it comes to desecrating Shabbat. The next pasuk is also very interesting. It says, "Lo tevaru esh bechol moshvotechem beyom haShabbat," and don't burn fire in your dwellings on the day of Shabbat. So, these two pesukim, we have to look a little bit into the dikduk of the words. It says over there, Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh Melacha. The word Te'aseh means will get done. The proper Hebrew would be Sheshet Yamim Ya'aseh, you will do work. Or Ta'asu, it's something that you're going to work for 6 days, and on the 7th day you will rest. What do you mean Sheshet Yamim? The job will be done. Here, the rabbis tell us that a person that keeps Shabbat, because we know already from the time of Bereshit, the week that's ahead of us gets its power, its life from Shabbat. Shabbat is what powers the following week. Shabbat is the one that powers the Sunday, the Monday, the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday. Then we have a Shabbat that gives the power to the upcoming week. So Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh lets us know that the way that you keep Shabbat, the way that you keep that 25-hour period, determines how the rest of the week is going to go. So, when you're on that business deal on Tuesday afternoon, you're doing your hishtadlut. You're doing what you have to do. You got to show up to the appointment, you got to drive, you got to bring the paperwork, you got to do the talking. But sealing the deal, that got determined on Shabbat. Sheshet Yamim Te'aseh. The job was done for you already on Shabbat. Anyone who keeps Shabbat knows that the beracha comes from Shabbat. So if you don't keep Shabbat, where's the beracha? How is it going to be Te'aseh? So we learn from here that if you want to secure your beracha, if you want to open up that faucet of beracha, it's good to go to the well where that faucet is connected to. Where is that well of beracha? Well, if you go to Lecha Dodi, what does it say over there? Lecha Dodi, every Shabbat we say it, right? Boi v'nelecha, they talk about Shabbat over there. Ki hi mekor ha-beracha. They said that it is the source of the beracha. So in other words, you come to the source on Friday night, you plug in, and all Shabbat you're getting the beracha, the sustenance that you need for the rest of the week. And later on, the entire 6 days, you're just drawing for what you drew that Friday night or that Shabbat. Ki hi mekor ha-beracha. The second pasuk that says, don't burn fire in your dwellings on Shabbat, I repeated it earlier this week, but it's something that is very, very important. Yes, we have the prohibition of lighting fire on Shabbat. And thank God that we have our rabbis, our Moshe Rabbeinus of every generation that know how to translate to us to what it means to us in 100 years ago, 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. What does this pasuk mean? Lo tavi'u esh b'Shabbat. So of course the common thing would be, actual fire. But nowadays with technology and with light and with electricity, Baruch Hashem, that we have rabbis like Rav Ovadia Yosef that was able to explain to us that this is also a translation of this pasuk, that there is electricity over here and it is considered fire, and it is, we always have Moshe Rabbeinu of the generation to explain us this pasukim. Not like some that say, Esh on Shabbat, that means I can't turn on my lighter. That means I can't really just barbecue on Shabbat. But I can turn on a light, I can watch TV. There's some people that follow it by text, and they don't follow the rabbi's interpretation for each generation. However, Lo Tavi'u Esh B'Shabbat talks about that internal fire that a person has. And typically when we say about that internal fire, it's a person's anger. One thing, a person's emotion of anger, it's the complete opposite of shalom. It stems from ge'ava, it stems from somebody not doing your will, it stems from the place that you think that what you're thinking or what you want is better than what the actual situation is or what God has figured out for you. And the person that gets angry on Shabbat, there's a section in the Zohar which is called Bereshit Taman that says over there that anybody who turns on who gets angry on Shabbat, it's if he took fire and he lit the ovens of Gehinnom. So who wants that honor? Who wants that honor of having that torch, of walking to hell and turning on those ovens on Shabbat? You don't want that. You don't want to wear that badge. But they say a person that gets angry on Shabbat, that's what he does. That's what it's equivalent to. That's what the Zohar states. And we did in previous lessons, and we mentioned it, that if you take the 25-hour period of Shabbat, which determines the entire rest of the week, and you divide 25 hours into the 144 hours of the week, that means that every Shabbat hour translates to roughly about 5.5 weekday hours. So if you lose your temper for an hour on Shabbat, you better believe that there's going to be a 5.5 hour packet during the week where you're going to be angry. Because the way you keep Shabbat is the way that it keeps you. The way you keep Shabbat is the way the rest of the week translates. And if half the Shabbat the person is upset and angry, then you better believe it that half the week you're going to be angry. Because you're setting the precedent for the rest of the week through Shabbat. So you have to be very, very careful not to get angry on Shabbat. We also discussed that about during holidays and how you're not to get angry on Rosh Hashanah because it's the head of the year. According to how your attitude is on Rosh Hashanah, it can translate to how your entire year can be. Imagine you're upset over Rosh Hashanah, all of a sudden you have a real angry year. It's possible. You got grumpy people 24/7. Maybe it's connected to how they kept the Rosh Hashanah. So you want to be conscious to keep the Shabbat that the Shabbat is also the source of Shalom. It's a source of the Beracha. And that Moshe Rabbeinu, before he told us about anything to do with the Mishkan, with the heavenly presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, let us know, don't forget about Shabbat, and don't forget about the attitude that's required on Shabbat. Bezat Hashem, that we'll merit to keep the Shabbat, to have Hashem's presence in our life, and that we'll have Him soon with us in Bet HaMikdash HaShlishi. And looking forward to starting a brand new book, Vayikra, next week. Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach.
Vayakhel Pikudei this week?
Yeah.